Uh, Okay, welcome everyone to the June 29th, 2023 meeting of the Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority. As we get underway here today, I have a couple of quick announcements. I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. If you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard. Or if you are joining by phone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record.
Louisa?
Good afternoon. It's Louisa Hofstadter with the Vineyard Gazette recording.
Thank you. And okay.
Kisanu from the MB Times.
Thank you. And that's what I see.
Okay. On to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended. Board members are, except for Mr. Jones, are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. Board members who are participating remotely are doing so by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of these members' remote participation in the meeting, any and all votes taken today shall be by roll call vote. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the authority's May 2nd, 2023 meeting. It was a joint board and port council meeting in public session. Do we have a motion on this?
Move to accept the minutes, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Malcolm.
Actually, by roll call, I'm sorry. All in favor by roll call, please say aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye. I didn't hear Mr. Jones. Did he indicate aye?
You did indicate Jones, aye.
Okay, we heard him now. Our next item is the minutes of the authority's May 16th, 2023 meeting in public session. Do we have a motion on this?
I'll move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Sorry.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye. Those are approved. Next, we have the Port Council's report of their June 6th, 2023 meeting. Do we have somebody from the Port Council?
We do. Mr. Salido is here. We bring him over.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Salido. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. The minutes of the 6th June 2023 meeting. The meeting was called to order at 9:30 a.m. The minutes were approved for the 2nd of May of 2023 meeting. Mr. Driscoll provided an update on the website redesign. Total project now stands at $2.5 million. To date, 96% of the revised budget has been spent. Mr. Davis presented an update on the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project site work. Now this phase of the landside work is complete. Ms. Sullivan updated the status of the safety quality management system. Mr. Edmondson updated on the MV Aquina and the MV Barnstable. Both are currently at the Alabama Shipyard, Mobile, Alabama. Mr. Davis gave an update on the strategic plan initiative. Mr. Davis also then presented an extension of the current concession contract. After discussion, the Port Council voted 4-0 to recommend to the board a 5-year extension. Mr. Davis said the authority was having some issues with crew availability. Ms. Kniflick shared a chart regarding the authority's overall staffing levels. Ms. Driscoll and Davis presented a public communications plan. Mr. Roseman reviewed the April 2023 business summary. Mr. Roseman then presented the highlights of the 2002 cost of services study. Ms. Kniflick said a link to Mr. Davis's evaluation has been sent to the members, which I believe we all received. Mr. Davis introduced Stephen Coleman, the Director of Information Technologies designate, who will succeed Mr. Van Riper late in 2023. The meeting adjourned at 11:01 a.m. I would also like to add that I met with the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, and they approved the lease. Ms. Potter and Mr. Roseman and myself had looked over a draft lease, and then Mr. Davis and Mr. Roseman and Attorney Keneally then sent over the official lease to the Oak Bluffs Board of Selectmen. I'd like to add too that Ms. Potter, the town administrator, was very, very helpful in explaining the lease to the Board of Selectmen. And it was interesting representing both sides. I think back in the 18 days, felt like a mug womp. My mug was on one side, my womp was on the other, representing the town of Oak Bluffs and the Steamship Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a great report. Next item on our agenda is the general manager's report. Mr. Davis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So since you're not getting everyone on the screen, I'll just mention who's in the room. We have Terrence Keneally, Sean Driscoll, Bob Jones, myself, Mark Higgins, Mark Rosem. We have from Sodexo Live, we have Ryan Cummings and Dave Oberlander. We have Bridget Sullivan, Janice Kedefick, Allison Fletcher. We have Ben Kaplan from the ADK, still ADK?
No, Stellar Elements.
Stellar Elements, sorry. Dave Jensen from Regan Communications. We have Dan Barnett from RSM US, our auditors. And Matt, I'm drawing a blank now on your last word. Sorry, Matt Ward from C Street is in the room. So, all right. So first item is a update on the website design. So I'll actually turn that over to Sean.
Good afternoon, everybody. Almost said good morning. So the project right now is going through a very rigorous development and testing phase with a lot of functionality on the website. Large portions of the functionality are complete from a development standpoint, but many items still remain to be fully tested and debugged. A lot of the work that we're doing now largely is edge cases that affect a relatively few number of users, but are complicated to solve from a technological standpoint. Later in the meeting, we'll talk about discussions that have begun about moving to a fall launch date due to the volume and complexity of the work that's remaining on the project. And as Mr. Salido noted, the project cost stands at $2.5 million, and we have been continuing our public engagement with the e-news and updates on the website. So you'll hear from me again, but I'll take any questions, obviously, if you have any now.
Questions from the board, Mr. Jeffrey.
I'll reserve most of my questions when you come back before us, but said the current project is at 2.5 million. What was the original contract for? Before any change orders were approved by the board?
Short of $2 million. I can get the exact total for you after this, but it was 1.9 and change.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Malkin.
Thank you. Sean, to what extent have we had feedback from the traveling public, as my Nantucket friend calls them?
Sure.
What to what extent input?
Right, and we're not at a point yet where we're ready to do any kind of friends and family beta testing. So we've had a lot of feedback on the designs and the functionality so far. Right now, the work is on executing what the public to this point has already seen. So there hasn't been much new to show them in quite a while because it's executing the planned designs and functionality that have already been reviewed. So as we're closer to launch, we'll be able to do a friends and family beta, but right now the site is in functionally the same design and same functionality as the last time we reviewed it with some local people who helped us do some testing.
Okay, so then my follow-up to that was, you mentioned that there was a couple of issues that didn't impact a lot of people, but that you were working on. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
things like, if you, these are off the top of my head, so I don't have a full list in front of me, but
You want, I'll tell you what, if it's easier, I'd be interested, just send me a note with there.
sure, will do.
Thank
Just as an example, it's when you're taking a car over and you've got a trailer one way, but not a trailer the other way. Little things like that, most people aren't gonna handle, aren't gonna have on their reservations. But I can get you a more complete list, follow up with you after
Thank
the
you.
meeting.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none. What do you got next, Bob?
Next item, we have an update on the progress for the MV Aquina and MV Barnstable. So I believe Mark. Yeah, he's there. Mark is on there, so we'll bring him over.
You need to be more specific now when you say that. Mr. Amundson, thank you.
The only Mark not in the room.
Thank you, Bob.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Thames Shipyard in New London. Give an update on the Barnstable and Aquina. If we can put the first slide up, please. Okay, this is a continuation of the dry dock as we started in May, and this is a photo of the two side-by-side vessels. Next slide. And this is one of the bow thrusters that we're removing from the Aquina. Next slide. And these are the two removed from the Barnstable. And the next step for these, they'll go down to SMI down in Miami for the conversion for the EAL, environmental acceptable lube oils. So next slide, please. There's just a photograph of the deck. The deck coatings are in pretty good shape, and this is just that angle line you see is just for holding the wood which has been removed from the deck. Next. So the progress highlights as to date is the MV Barnstable is gas-free for hot work, as is the Aquina now. We're commencing the wire removals in preparation for removing the 14-foot mid-body, preparing for removals of existing deck equipment. Thrusters have been completely removed from the Barnstable, and now all the thrusters are removed from the Aquina, and we're in the process of removing the bridge equipment and wait for the new bridge console. I think now that both vessels are gas-free, I think we'll be seeing some accelerated steel work with removal of the mid-body and start the removal of various tanks once the mid-body is removed, and we're starting to move right along now. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Mr. Malkin? You're muted. Mr. Malkin's muted.
Sorry, you'd think I'd have learned after 3.5 years. This may be to Mark or it may be to Bob. Are we going today to go through the analysis of the underage of our estimate on the conversion costs?
Yes, that's on the top, that's on the agenda for few more items from now.
Thank you. That's what, just checking. Thank you.
Hearing no other questions. Thank you, sir.
There is one other slide that didn't get attached to that previous presentation. So here's the monthly update in terms of the capital expenditures report for the project and where we stand, including the acquisition costs, the engineering to date, the construction cost to date, and then owner supplied and SSA personnel. So. All right, so if there's no other questions on that, next up on the list is Bridget comes up to the table, is an update on the safety quality management certification. Bridget has some exciting news, so.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Go ahead, nice and well. Yeah, let it rip. Right, I'm sorry.
So I'll just get headed. All right, here we are. So on July 7th, the remaining vessels to have the ISM audit successfully completed their vessel audits with no observations, no nonconformities. The audit team consisted of 2 marina auditors, SMS consultants, our assistant port captain Paul and myself. So this means that we're proud to announce that all our vessels and our administrative building have completed their safety management certificates and are fully certified. Next slide.
Very
please.
exciting, very exciting.
On the following day, we began the second phase of our ISM certification, the administrative initial audit, not to be confused with the interim audit, but initial audit. This audit confirmed conformance with our SQMS manuals, which did identify 2 observations and 1 nonconformity. The nonconformity identified the lack of instruction with regards to obsolete documents, to which we do have a policy in draft and is just waiting approval. And the 2 observations were in regard to practices that we are actually doing, only they weren't captured, written, and recorded in our manuals. One being how we maintain certificates on board and following up with external audit deficiencies, both of which will be captured in the next upcoming revisions once approved. Next slide, please. On that same day, our arena auditor, Erin, presented our general manager, Bob, with the administrative initial ISM certificate, and our assistant port captain, Paul, with the remaining ISM initial audit certificates. Initial certificates. Next slide, please. On June 21st and the 22nd, Rena, along with our assistant port captain, Paul, and myself, conducted our first series of vessel initial audits. I do apologize for the typo on the line there. It's not the interim safety management audit, it's the initial audit. There was 1 observation related to access of work orders. This too is being addressed. Next slide, please. And this slide represents some of the areas that were covered during those audits to give you a little bit of a visual. From our rescue boat drills, all vessels that conducted their initial audit conducted a rescue boat drill, and we had also a marine evacuation system instruction, which also included multiple interviews from the vessel personnel, the ship's captain, the chief engineer. And I would like to mention that our assistant port captain, Paul, did a phenomenal job with helping to prepare our vessel teams for these audits. Next slide, please. And here we have 2 examples of what those certificates look like. On the left is our administrative documents of compliance, and on the right is our voluntary safety management certificate. All vessels will receive their own safety management certificates, and our target date is to have all of our vessels certified with their initial certificates by the end of September. And these certificates are valid for 5 years with annual surveillance audits. Next slide, please. I wanted to share some feedback from our auditor, Erin. I won't read everything to you, but I would like to stress that in the 6 months since our first series of audits that he himself has identified are continual improvements, and that he feels we are progressing very well and have a very good system, to which we owe many thanks to SMS consultants for their dedication with pulling together our operations into the SQMS manuals. And many thanks to our various teams, shipboard and shoreside, for their hard work and dedication to our safety management certificate system. Next slide, please. And as you may have guessed, it's been a busy month. Only recently I received invoices reflecting the audits that took place in June. So they have not yet been captured here, but I can say confidently that there were no anomalies and that we are still within the scope of the original contract. And I'd like to side note, heat stress awareness, everyone, please stay hydrated. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Nope, not hearing any. Thank you. Very nice job.
Thank you very much.
So if I may, on behalf of, the staff, Mark Amundsen, Mark Higgins, and myself, we're going to be sending our a letter to the crews and the terminal people. Letting them know about, the progress that we made on this. And, the input that, Bridget and Paul Hennessy have provided as well. To let them know that, these efforts are not noticed by us, so. Unnoticed, excuse, not noticed, not unnoticed.
It'll be fine in the minutes.
Mr. Malcolm,
Yeah, Bob, to that point, one of the things that I hear a lot about, and perhaps others do as well, is the issue of training. And that certainly came up in that consultant's report. The fact that we are doing this training and the fact that we are doing it apparently quite successfully is something that should be communicated to our traveling public as well. Because we certainly, it's a good thing that we're doing and people should know we're doing it.
I know that Sean did put something out on our social media channels regarding the receiving those certifications and the like, and I'm sure that there'll be an upcoming e-news that will highlight some of these things.
Good, thank you.
All right. Could have done these in a different order. Next, we'll have an update on the MV Gayhead Dry Dock, and we'll bring Mark back over.
I'm still here.
There you are.
Sean doesn't let me see the screen, so.
Oh.
Okay, so the Gayhead is at Thames Dry Dock in New London, Connecticut. We're probably about 2/3 away from the completion. And right now we're tentatively looking to undock on the 19th and then go back to Fairhaven on the 21st of July. Next slide, please. Just kind of, this is taken in mid-June. This is kind of right before we got into the blasting, coating, and steel renewal. Next, please. So there's a section of shell plate identified in the gauging survey that had to be renewed, and that is now completed. Next slide. Just some areas, structural steel renewal in the skeg. Next. I did a bow thruster renewal. This is with the thruster remove, and you can see the horizontal shaft coming into the body of the thruster. Next. So some of the dry dock highlights: hull coatings, bow thruster overhauls, and we had a fair amount of structural steel renewals, blasting and coating of the hull and superstructure. Next. And so there's a financial snapshot. The contract value was $776,142. We have $95,000 in credits. And so right now we have a grand total contract credit and change order is $681,000. We still have some more items coming in, but I think we're going to be very, very near our target contract total of $776,142. That's it. Any questions?
No, looks good.
no questions from the board? No? Thank you, Mr. Amundson. That looks
Yep,
great.
thank you. Yep.
All right, so next on the agenda is a review of the freight boat conversion project and maintenance dry docking. So I'll turn that over to Mark Higgins.
Good afternoon. So as part of the packet, I wrote a staff summary as far concerning the review of the freight boat conversion project and the maintenance dry dockings. So in review of the freight boat conversions, there are several factors that entered into the financial differential from the estimates initially presented to the board. The steamship authority retained the services of Kurloff and Associates, who designed the previous generation of OSV to freight vessel conversions for the authority. Several items were not included in the original cost basis and were only identified after more detailed engineering was conducted. The additional items resulted in an expanded scope of work for the conversions, The most significant variances from the initial estimates to the bids were structural fire protection, excuse me, was $165,000 differential. The subdivision bulkheads were $790,000, and the tonnage bulkheads were $928,000. The Steamship Authority internally developed the OSV's reactivation estimates. These estimates were developed using historical cost averages from routine dry dockings, as well as preliminary cost estimates from vendors. The most significant changes we saw in the differentials were the dry docking at Alabama Shipyard, which was $1.5 million. That is due very much in a variation in how the docking was done. The plan included use of the neighboring shipyard to first dry dock the vessels and then transfer the vessels to a barge for transport to Alabama Shipyard facility. Alabama Shipyard then used the self-propelled motor transports, SPMTs, to transfer the vessels to the dock. When looking at other quotes, the Bollinger Shipyard quote was $54,000 to transport and dock the vessels, although they were located approximately 300 miles closer to the bayou where the vessels originated from. So we had the docking, blasting and coating. There was a differential of $450,000. The mid-body extension, $366,000, and hydraulic steering was $60,000. The project, $59,000. The project design timeline increased substantially from the project initiation through the bidding process, with 12 additional weeks of engineering. The project's work of scope timeline was significantly underestimated, resulting in construction period being extended to 12 additional weeks. The backlog of work in the U.S. shipyards led to a smaller number of bidders. This was due mainly, you have a large number of conversions going on in the energy sector right now, as well as the introduction of wind support vessels. There's also a smaller pool of skilled tradespeople that contributes to the smaller number of bids because the shipyards do not have the personnel. The SSA bonding requirement that withholds 5% of the final contract price for 12 months places the Steamship Authority at a competitive disadvantage when bidding for any construction and maintenance work. And going on, the MSC April 2022 fleet condition useful end of life report outlines the useful life as it's defined by the engineering and operational planning purposes, with the estimated years remaining to function in the vessel's current capacity. Presently, 3 of the vessels in the steamship fleet have been recommended for replacement in 3 to 5 years, and 2 vessels have been recommended for replacement in 5 to 7 years. The report emphasizes to extend the useful life, a rigorous preservation, time-consuming, and expensive maintenance program is necessary. Recommendations for future dry docking maintenance, such as like with the Gayhead and Sankaty, with these vessels that are outlined in the report, the useful life end of report, I would recommend that we look at an increase in of 15% for steel budgeted for these projects, for those 5 vessels. This would more accurately reflect the steel replacement that is found after UT testing is conducted on the hull and inspections of the tank and voids have been completed. Future conversions and new build construction projects will include the following: a thorough market analysis of shipyard availability, pricing, and staffing levels. Number 2, a review of shipyard increases over the previous 3 years will factor in, and that will also factor in inflation. Number 3, recommendation from 2 naval architects with initial estimates from their estimators. And number 4, final recommendations to the general manager will include a written assessment and recommendation from the Director of Marine Operations and the Chief Operating Officer. In the event that the Steamship Authority considers executing the option on the fourth OSV owned by Hornbeck Offshore. Our review should include a conversion to a hybrid electric with stored power. This would be the initial vessel in the Steamship Authority Fleet Modernization Plan to meet the Clean Energy and Climate Plan for 2050 as outlined here in Massachusetts. Future vessels should be designed as purpose-built ferries using the technology available to meet the 2050 deadlines. In developing future cost estimates for these type of projects, the Steamship Authority should include a contingency for the 5% bonding requirement. Based upon the feedbacks from shipyards, this requirement negatively impacts the authority's ability to get multiple competitive bids from U.S. shipyards. And that completes the review.
Questions on the board? Mr. Jeffrey?
I have many questions, but I don't want to belabor the point in this meeting. I think some of my questions just need a follow-up with Mark and Bob after this meeting. But one of the things I'm very concerned about is, the focus on Kurloff and Associates, leaving out $2 million worth of engineering design. How did that happen? I mean, who is responsible? And in fact, a lot of these issues that you've identified as to why we misestimated the cost, I haven't heard a reason as to why or who within the steamship came to these conclusions and why they were so off. And I'm not necessarily convinced that all the recommendations will keep this from happening again. We've lost a lot of public trust and a lot of my own confidence in voting on these things and moving forward. I can get into specifics. I think that's better outside of a meeting and come back and discuss it later. But I'll let you respond, Mark or Bob.
Okay, well, I'll start off. In terms of it, I think when we were, looking at this project and we were putting together some of the initial estimates, we didn't have the whole design package on those vessels. And, the tonnage bulkheads and the structural subdivision bulkheads, I guess, with everything else we were looking at hadn't come to mind. And I think the issue had been is that for instance, on the Sankaty, that's not a subchapter H boat that goes between different subchapters. And the goal as we started to go down the road for this project was to get these vessels to be a subchapter H vessel under all loading conditions. So that way we don't have the draft and the passenger load issues that we have with the Sankaty as an example. So that was something that we didn't identify until later. Then in terms of some of our cost estimates, obviously if we're looking at some historical, cost estimates, we essentially have 2 yards that have been bidding on our projects. So it's a very limited base in terms of how that historical data is put together. And I think Max Higgins comment about getting multiple naval architects to be looking at this. For instance, Kurloff did have a cost estimator, but to be able to have multiple ones, so that way we can see what these issues are and get a better handle onto shipyard availability factors into the cost, the steel pricing factors into the costs, and some of these equipment choices that we had factor into the cost as well, obviously. So, which I'm sure you're all aware of. So, obviously I'm not pleased that we missed this. Obviously now with another set of eyes here and another set of procedures in terms of how we do this going forward. The goal would be to to be coming back with a much tighter estimate on any future projects, so.
And Bob, I think you get to the heart of, I guess, my concern, or I don't want to say criticism, but what I think is kind of lacking in terms of the recommendations is developing a process or a procedure so that this doesn't happen again, that there is a process, a procedure, a decision tree, so that we know that when we're doing these designs, that we're including everything right up front with the naval architect, and that there's a process in terms of, we're not doing this, we're not the only people converting vessels in the world. So what are the best practices in terms of cost estimates? I know that we only have 2 yards historically bidding on it, but there must be data sources that we should pull from, just not only our own past contracts with them. So I guess what I would like to see, other than just kind of these recommendations, which I think are a good start, is having an actual process in place, in a written process of, this is what we do when we go about making these decisions and proposals to the board. That's what's going to build my confidence in voting for this in the future.
So Peter, this was intended to be more of an executive summary for the meeting. Those will be developed. These are your, I would say your 20,000 foot recommendations. And as we go on, we'll have a written procedure of how we proceed on this.
Mr. Malcolm.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, to Peter's point, if he's going to follow up with Mark Higgins and then maybe distribute what he finds, that would be great. My concern is, you call it process, Peter, I'd call it protocols, I guess. But I think it's the same thing. And what really concerns me is there are things that we didn't just underestimate. There were items that we completely missed, that we didn't even take account for. And, bulkheads and sheeting and so on. And that's my concern. And there's a protocol and a checklist. And I hope we have that going forward, because if we do get our bonding limit worked on, and we do get the ability to get a 4th vessel, we have to have real numbers. Have to.
I agree.
Totally agree.
And, if you notice on this, like, I will own this process.
Thank
as
you.
the Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you.
That's on me at this point.
Anything else from the board on that? Sounds like we're all on the same page.
Sure.
All right. No further questions. We'll move on to the next item, was a request for the concession contract. So before I start, I should mention that Brian Cummings and Dave Oberlander from Sedeco Live, AKA Centerplate, AKA Boston Construction Group, are here if there's any questions. But back in May, we received a letter from Sedeco seeking to renew the terms of its agreement to provide food service concession services on board the Steamship Authority's vessels and its terminals. Centerplate, I'll just use Centerplate at this point, has been a valued partner in the authority's operations since the actually early 1990s. And over that time, Centerplate and the authority's operations staff have worked well together to provide what we feel is a valued concession services to our customers. The COVID-19 pandemic presented some significant operational challenges to not only to the authority, but also to Centerplate. However, I think the track that they're on at this point is to get back to where they were pre-pandemic. And they're starting to see that in terms of the sales figures that are coming through, the staffing levels that they have for the counters as well. There still remains ongoing operational hurdles, one of which we've addressed, and that was on the Nantucket route. Excuse me, the housing that they had had previously became unavailable and or unaffordable. We've looked at our terminal, and we do have a available cruise quarters up in the second floor of the terminal building that our crew doesn't use. So we've made that available to Centerplace, so that way they're able to staff the last Eagle trip over and the first Eagle trip off the island. So that should be an improvement in terms of the service levels on the Nantucket route. Then on the Vineyard route, they do have housing, although there's some situations where the staffing has been tight. They're still working on that. They're meeting that need. Sorry, bless you. So Article 6 of the current concession contract provides that unless either party notifies the other by July 31st, 2022, of its desire to terminate or change any provisions of this agreement, the authority of the concessionaire shall promptly thereto enter into and execute a new agreement. The terms and conditions shall be identical to the terms and conditions of the then current agreement. And as a reminder, back in 2020, when the board waived the minimum concession fees because we weren't allowing them on board the vessel, the parties agreed to extend the term of the then current contract by 1 year. So that July 31st, 2022 date is actually July 31st, 2023 now. Sorry. So the Port Council at their June 6th meeting, we presented this recommendation to enter into negotiations with Centerplate for a new 5-year successor agreement. And the Port Council at their meeting voted to recommend that the license be renewed. And the staff is of the opinion that the Centerplate's request to renew its food concession contract under mutually agreeable terms and conditions be authorized. So. And I don't know whether Brian or Dave have anything they'd like to add before the members speak, or.
I'm just saying, we appreciate our partnership here and thank the board for the time today and letting us be on the agenda. So again, we appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing our partnership.
Questions, comments from the board? Mr. Jeffrey?
Just one comment that I think I just want the public to know as we vote for this, and I'll be in favor of it, is that paragraph 36 of the contract in terms of allowing the accommodations. I see that it's at our discretion, and given our own staffing issues, I just want to make sure that the public knows we're not displacing staff that we otherwise could lodge if needed to. So I'm pleased by that, how that paragraph is worded, and I think it's important that the public recognize that.
I will give credit where credit is due, and that's Mr. Keneally's.
Thanks, Pete.
Good lawyering.
Okay, do we have a motion on this?
I'm over approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, indicate aye.
Jeffrey,
Roll
aye.
call.
Jones, aye.
Not gonna.
Randy, aye. It's unanimous. Well, unanimous for the present members.
Thank you. All right, next item is an update on the 2023 summer operating schedule modifications. So, as I noted back in April at the board meeting, we have some issues with available crewing, specifically with the licensed deck officers group. We continue to try to remedy the situation, but we've had to make some service level adjustments. And at this point, we expect those to continue through the month of July. This past winter, the authority did send 10 members of the crew who had obtained able-bodied seaman status to an 8-week class to study to become pilot mates. Sorry, getting over a cold. Following the class, we provided them with additional time for study time for it. They submitted their applications to the United States Coast Guard Documentation Center to be tested. However, unlike past years, that notification on testing was delayed significantly over what we'd seen. Until these individuals pass the test, they can't sail as mates on board our vessel. So for the immediate time, the only change we have right now is the INO is only double crewed, not triple crewed. So we're not running the 5th trip of the INO. We will be looking at opportunities to run the 5th trip on busier weekends, if we see that demand needs it. Sorry. But at this point, our thanks go out to Congressman Bill Keating, Captain Prindle of the United States Coast Guard, who's the captain of the port here, along with their respective staffs, for assisting us in moving along the testing status of our mate candidates. So at this point, all the mates have been notified. We have actually received word right before this meeting that one of them has passed the 5th section of their test. So they'll be able to be assigned as a mate on board our vessels. In order to become a pilot, they have 8 or 9 charts that they have to draw, so that'll be coming later. But we can have them sail as mates on board our vessels. We have a couple others that are a section away or 2 away from passing to being the same status. So we do see some relief here on the horizon in terms of having these individuals be able to join the licensed deck officers group. So, but unfortunately, at this point, we are looking at the INO still only being double crewed until the end of July.
Questions from the board? Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. As the second to newest member of the board, I'll ask a question that may be heresy, but may not be. It was brought to my attention by an ex-agent of ours here in the Vineyard. If we're short pilots and captains and senior staff, don't we have port captains who are licensed who could run some of these boats?
Yes. The issue that we have with that is that, in particular, the INO, there's a requirement that they have to have recency on board that vessel. And at this point, they do not, but we're looking at coming up with a plan so that way that is resolved.
I mean, this is a bad season to leave Nantucket without an INO trip. It's a bad season to not be able to do the triple crewing. You know, this is just the worst of all possible times for us. So to the extent, I didn't quite hear what that word was with an R.
Recency.
Okay.
Because it's a high-speed craft, they have to have so many trips with it. They have to have been on the boat so many times within a certain time period. It's a rolling time period.
Right, but for the non-fast boats, like the Governor, where we're not running that on occasion.
So
The staff.
besides the INO, the issue with, for instance, the Governor is that it's such a different animal than the other vessels that we internally want to make sure that the licensed deck officers that operate that vessel have recency on that vessel as well.
Well, I guess my request would be, if we need recency, let's make recency happen.
Yes. Jim, I'll be sitting down with the port captains next week, and we're gonna develop a plan for them to have recency on all the vessels, because
Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, no other questions? I guess I should add that in order not to be in this situation next year, where we waited until January and February to be conducting these classes and getting the people into the documentation center. Our plan, we've already been putting together a list of candidates to do so this coming fall, so that way we'll be farther ahead on this as well. But again, thanks to Congressman Keating and his staff and Captain Prindle and his staff at the Coast Guard. All right. The next item is just a quick update on staffing levels. So Janice will come up.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Jan.
So at last month's board meeting, I was asked to provide an update on our current staffing levels. Sorry. Yep. So I'll just, so essentially what I provided at the Port Council meeting, we have had some positive movement in some of these departments, in particular, the vineyard route, reservations, maintenance. So as you can see on this chart, the blue.
We'll see it in a second.
Oh,
There it is. Sorry.
that's okay, no problem, yep. So where we continue to have some struggles with hiring remain in the Hyannis parking lot and Falmouth as well, with regard to the parking lot, in particular in Falmouth, it's in relation to the bus drivers. We've struggled with hiring the bus drivers or really having them remain on staff. So as you can see, the blue column indicates budgeted headcount, the green are current active employees, and the red column are open positions. So I feel confident in, I mean, we're getting activity. It's not as though we're not receiving applications, but what we're finding in all locations is really, once they're brought, either when they're phoned to come in for an interview, they perhaps don't respond to the voicemail or to the message, or they come in for the interview and then they realize, either due to the position itself, the hourly rate, or, passing the drug test, that they wouldn't be a good fit for the position. So that's the staffing update that I have. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments from the board?
I have a question.
Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. Janice, one of the concerns I have, as you know, we've got Vineyard Wind and a wind farm coming up, and I'm concerned about the potential impact on able-bodied seamen and pilots and so on and so forth, in terms of the attraction of these other positions that are going to come online relatively quickly, as it would impact our staffing. Have we given any thought to that? And if we haven't, perhaps we ought to come up with some sort of a proactive plan to deal with one of the things that I worry about.
Right, and that has come up. I know that there's been talk about that opportunity for others, but I will say that I've seen about a half a dozen new hire packets come through my office within the last 2 weeks for OSs and ABs. So I think certainly we need to put together a plan, and I like that. I think it's important.
So, and if I may, so we're aware that it's, we have an aging workforce. This has been something that we've been last few years becoming more and more active in terms of our recruitment efforts. I don't have the number in front of me, but I want to say it was 52 positions that we hired just for the vessel operations since the beginning of this year, to supplement the people who have retired or weren't coming back from winter or whatever. So we do appear to be a good employer in terms of people wanting to come to work for us, and we need to be able to leverage that even more going forward. And then it's once they get in into the organization, be able to get them up the promotional chain, to become from ordinary to able-bodied seamen to, purser, bosun, mates, pilots, and captains. So it'll be an ongoing thing that we need to be doing. Yes, we're aware and concerned about the impact that the offshore wind may have on some of this, but again, I think that where we've been a stable, good year-round employer, we'll look at it is just that, a good place to work.
Right, and we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't lost anyone to the wind farm, so I think, and kudos to Joe Rustis for his continued efforts in bringing people in. I see my office is 2 doors down from Joe's, and I've seen, like I said, about a half a dozen young men and women coming through for interviews, so kudos to Joe. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, since my voice is going, I'll turn this next one over to Sean on the communications plan.
Irony. Good afternoon again, everybody. I just wanted to provide you with a review of some in progress and upcoming public and proactive communications initiatives that the authority is undertaking right now. This came up, of course, at the request of several port council and board members, and we have drafted several communications initiatives designed to more proactively communicate our performance, our programs, initiatives, and other good news to the public. So just as a brief overview, some of the initiatives in their current status include providing letters to the editor, factual replies to erroneous statements that have appeared in other letters in local media, and that's ongoing. I'm sure you've all seen the letter that was published earlier this month in the Falmouth Enterprise. We're also going to work on a scheduled program of staff outreach at public events to better engage with the public, and that's an ongoing event. We've recently sponsored and had staff attend several community events with chambers of commerce and local nonprofit organizations to be more present in those arenas as well. And we're also working on hosting open hours, office hours, for lack of a better term, in our port communities, and establishing a regular schedule and advertising the schedule of senior staff riding the vessels to get feedback directly. We're going to start promoting our performance records. Fewer than 1 in 100 authority trips are canceled for mechanical reasons each year, but the narrative persists that the service is unreliable. So we're going to start publishing our trip statistics quarterly in island media outlets and then monthly on the website and in the e-news. And I expect to start that over the summer. We're going to work to distribute internally some one-page fact sheets to staff, board, and port council, so they have access to information at a glance so that they will be armed with the facts. We're going to work harder to encourage and reward employees for finding examples of extraordinary customer service so that we can promote those online on our e-news and social media and other channels as well. We're going to work to increase communication of our island resident only service offerings by working with community television stations, creating website landing pages on the news site, and partnering with community organizations to help reach out to residents where they are to let them know about the programs that are available to them. Mark Higgins and I will be having discussions about putting the communications back in the Operations and Communications Center to empower them to receive and disseminate communications under the training and oversight of myself and the OCC manager and Mark Higgins, including being able to post website alerts, sending email and text alerts to more quickly be able to get that information out and to rely on more people who have the ability to do that. And we're also working on new communication channels, including partnerships with community organizations, like I said, hosting open houses, and upon availability of some capital funding, executing the digital signage project and improving audio speaker systems at the terminals and onboard the vessels to more easily be able to distribute recorded announcements centrally. Obviously, some more recommendations may emerge following the review of the IT review that's currently underway by Gibbous. But those are the high points of what we're working on now, and would certainly be open to any questions if anyone has any.
Questions from the board?
Jones,
Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones,
I think this is, extremely important. If nothing else, I learned when went to the town of Barnstable and everything, we've got to completely revamp our image. And one of the things that hurts the most is when you get letters to the editors that are incorrect. People read that in the newspaper and they think it's gospel. And really, it's nothing more than, coffee shop conversation. But unless you correct it, it goes unchecked. And some of the other recommendations you have, I think are very interesting, but I think I learned myself a lesson going before the town council and their impression of what the steamship authority is. Because they really don't have, the background and knowledge. All they have is what is read in the paper. And the town of Barnstable is not as active as the islands and Falmouth when it comes to, customers and letters to the other. So I'm 100% in favor of this, and like we can't stop fast enough.
Thank you.
Mr. Malcolm,
Thank you. Sean, thank you for that. I think it's a great first step or second step, first and second step. One comment and a suggestion. What I didn't hear was someone being responsible for social media. And that my view is I call it anti-social media, but clearly our experience here on the island of Martha's Vineyard is that social media, a couple of the Facebook pages drive perception. Right now, we've got more than 180 people commenting upon the need to bring back guaranteed standby, which in my view is not a move that I would support for many reasons. And I have told people what they are, but me telling the people that talk to me about it is different than the 185 people who are commenting on it. One of the things, Sean, that you did in the past that I thought was very effective, when something would show up on Islanders Talk, you were able to respond to that with facts and a little bit of humor, and it sort of would put out that brush fire. And to the extent that we may need a social media coordinator, manager, what have you, to deal with that potentially disinformation source, I think would be very, very helpful, in addition to the newspapers and things that Mr. Jones mentioned. But a way to tamp out these fires before they start polluting the entire environment would be a great step, I think. So thank you for considering that.
Thank you. And just briefly, I mean, I've been, since I came on board, primarily the social media, that's fallen under my responsibility since I've come on board. And I do get into Islanders Talk and some of those other groups as I'm able to, but it's also very hard to find all of those because Facebook doesn't like to just show you what's going on. The algorithm shows you what's going on. So I do try to get in there and answer questions as I'm able to, but it's also can be challenging to find, but I will redouble my efforts on that.
And I would be supportive if this is a staffing issue, because I think it's critical for us to control the narrative. Really. So if that's the issue, then let's deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones,
Just one other thing, in the town of Barnstable, at every council meeting when they have public comment, which public comment, by the way, is first and not last. But there's a section for response to public comment. And it's really, it's not argumentative or anything else. Usually the councilors basically add to some of the comments that are made. And then there's certainly the corrections, to public comment. And it could be, it could be a source for, a Donnybrook, if you challenge the speaker. But if you can show him facts and figures of why he needs to be corrected, I think it's only gonna be, beneficial to us. So, but it does work, and sometimes that public comment goes on longer than the agenda items, so. Anyways.
Right.
Thank you, Sean. Sean, that's a great plan. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the annual salary increases for non-union personnel. So this is something we typically come back to the board at the June meetings for. But this year is a little different. So back in August of 2019, the members voted to approve a conflict of interest disclosure that I made, determining my financial regarding being able to go back and review the non-union grades and positions. The board at that time felt that my interest was not so detrimental that it would affect the integrity of the services that I was providing, and authorized me to go ahead and do that. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Keneally, Mr. Rosem, and Ms. Kennefic provided similar disclosures to me, and as their supervisors, I approved those in order to allow them to participate in the discussions. Since Mark Higgins joined the organization, a similar disclosure was made by him to me, so he could also participate. So basically what we've done, and this in part comes back from the HMS report, in which they had identified that we had a very flat structure, that we needed to look at the positions and how they graded, the compensation levels at certain job classifications, and how that all works. Previously, the job grades for the non-union group went from a grade 1 to a grade 20. But the bulk of them were within a very tight window. The number of the employees and the job classifications were really within just a small range in the middle of that job of that grade system. So we've gone back and looked at each of the positions. We looked at the market conditions. We had Willis Towers Watson provide us with some market analysis. We've also looked at some online analysis in terms of compensation levels for certain positions. And so basically what we've come up with, and as part of your packet, is that we feel that the 1 through 20 grading is a little too restrictive. And if we were to change that to a 1 to 40, but keeping basically, level 1 the same as the old level 1, and level 40 the same as the old level 20, that we can open up some opportunities, so that way we can have positions available for entry-level positions that then have an opportunity to grow into different grades as they progress down their steamship careers. In doing that, as I said earlier, 21 of the 68 positions, or over 30% of those grades, fell within just a 3-grade range, which is proportionate to all the grades. Then there was another 27 that fell, or nearly 40%, which fell between a grade 8 and a grade 12, or 4-grade range. So again, everything was bunched up right in the middle on this. So we looked at this, and our recommendation is to switch it from the grade 1 to 20 to a grade 1 to 40. And again, the top and the bottom being the same. It's just a matter of distinguishing on those grades in between. reassign these positions based on, the market conditions, the skill sets that these individuals need for those different levels of employment. And when we end up doing that, and applying, where they would be in the existing staff in that group, it ends up being an initial outlay of some $75,000 in order to accomplish that. Along with that, we were looking for based on the Towers, Willis Towers Watson survey. Their recommendation is a wage and salary structure overall increase of 4% for the non-union personnel. So if the board was so to do that, we'd be looking at applying that against for the non-union, but those individuals that would be assigned to the new grades, we'd be looking at those, and in some cases, because of the increases that they'd be getting because of going to this newer grade, some of that $75,000 in total would be either eliminated or offset with the merit wage survey increases that Willis Towers Watson has recommended. So the recommendation that we're making to the board is the members vote to approve the proposed 2023 wage and salary program for the non-union employees, and the proposed 2023 salary and wage increase 4% for the non-union employees as outlined in the staff summary.
Do we have a motion on this? Questions, comments? Mr. Jeffrey?
I guess I just have a comment. I mean, I'm in support of raising wages so we retain our employees in this climate. My concern is more about how and when this type of information is presented to the board. Not so much the salary increase, but to completely change the structure of the non-union pay system. This was presented to us with 48 hours of advance notice to this meeting when the wage scale summary was available to management back in April. And so I'm just concerned about how much being able to do the research I need to do to exercise my fiduciary duties when it comes to major policy decisions like this.
Mr. Jones?
Just a question, how close does this reflect to union?
Well, that's a good question. So actually, there's a couple positions that as we're looking at them, under the current system, they were significantly below what some of the comparable union positions had, even though they had, now that they're in the administration staff. And some of those adjustments that are included in that were to bring those positions up, not the people, because we're looking at the positions as opposed to the individuals that are doing the jobs. To look at that, to bring those up so that way, the position's value is appropriate for what the duties are. And there were a number of individuals that we have, and we do have some direct correspondence that we can do. For instance, the port captains are, we have the captains on board our vessels. We know what their pay scales are. The port engineers, we know what the chief engineers' pay scales are, and things like that. So we're able to look at that. We did look at some of the market survey information that Willis Towers Watson was able to provide, as well as what some of the websites that the Commonwealth has. So.
Well, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't go forward with this. The difference, it's increases are minimal, but they are increases, and I think we need to go forward. I'd move this forward.
Is that a motion, Mr. Jones?
Sorry, I didn't make it correctly.
Mr. Malcolm?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Chair. First of all, I agree with what Peter said. I need more time to study these things, Mr. Davis. So, give me several weeks to take a look at this stuff and come to an opinion. Thank you, that'd be appreciated. Secondly, there is a national, regional, local issue in terms of hiring people. We're talking about being short-staffed. We're talking about not running boats. We had a freeze a while ago for our non-union people. So I support making a move to increase the compensation. I would second the motion that Mr. Jones made, but please give me some more time to digest this so I can be a little more informed when I vote. Thank you.
Is there
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call.
Mr. Jones has his hand up, sorry.
Oh, can't see him. Sorry, Mr. Jones, go ahead.
is there an urgency for this?
Typically, the non-union, any adjustment to the non-union group goes into effect with the first, July 1st paycheck. The first paycheck, including July 1st.
Well, you can't. I understand, a delay in thinking about this, but it looks like, it's. I think I'd stick with my motion and see how that works.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. All in favor? Mr. Jeffrey?
Jeffrey abstains for not having enough time symbolically so the rest of the board can hopefully approve the increase.
I'll stick my neck out, Jones, aye.
I'll put my neck right next to yours, Mr. Jones. Malcolm, aye.
And I'm in favor of this as well. Randy, aye.
I understand your concern, Mr. Jeffrey and Mr. Malcolm, and I'm sure Mr. Jones and Mr. Rady have a similar concern about the timeliness of getting this, and we'll duly noted and make sure that anything of this nature will get out as sooner.
I mean, I'm a quick study, but yeah, I shared some of those concerns as well.
All right, next we have seeking approval for a lease renewal with the town of Oak Bluffs, and since as you heard from Mr. Solito earlier, Mr. Rosen was involved in that, so I'll turn that over to him.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as Mr. Solito mentioned earlier, Mr. Solito, myself, and met with Ms. Potter from Oak Bluffs, representing Oak Bluffs, looking to renew the current lease for the property in front of the Oak Bluffs terminal. What we're looking to do is basically turn over the existing lease for a 5-year lease, which would start on May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2028. Currently, the lease right now, if it was on the old methodology, would be for 2023, at least payment from CPI from the original amount would be $18,440. The lease would be what's being proposed is a change to $25,000. The other terms are basically the same as what was in the previous approved leases in the past.
Questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
I'd move the lease.
Is there a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Vickers? Yep, there you go. Okay, all in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, aye.
I'm sorry.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye. That's approved.
Thank you.
I think that does it for the general manager at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. The Treasurer Comptroller's report. Mr. Rosen, good afternoon again.
Hello, business summary for the month of April. So for the month of April, both routes combined, passengers were up 3.1% or just under 6,100 passengers. Year to date, we're up 8.3% or 43,906 passengers. The Vineyard route is up 8.5% and the Nantucket route is up 7.3%. On the Nantucket route, we're showing strong growth on the Fast Ferry, still rebounding from COVID, where that's up 15.4%. Here's the monthly comparison for passengers carried, 2022 versus 2023. Sean's a little quick for me, but okay. Okay, so here we go. We have the vehicles, the passenger vehicles carried. So on the Vineyard route, we're down 0.9% for the month of April, with 332 cars. The Nantucket route, we're down 1.5% or 100 cars, and both routes combined are 0.9% or 432 cars. Year to date, we're up just over 1,000 vehicles at 0.7%. And as you can notice, the standard fares are down, with excursions are up. And this is really rebalancing the mix from standard and excursion fares to what it was during pre-COVID in 2019. In 2019 through April, 56% of all vehicles traveled were excursion fares. We're back to 54%.
Wow.
So to put that in comparison, so.
Right.
Here are the vehicles carried by month, passenger vehicles. Trucks, freight trucks, both routes combined are up 1.8%, 146 vehicles. For a reminder, these are one-way vehicles. Year to date, we're up 7.8% or 2,083. And here's the trucks breakdown by month. Here's the chart Mr. Jeffrey asked me to put together regarding the traffic. Here's showing in month of April, the average vehicles per trip in both directions. This is showing all vehicles combined. Here's the weekday traffic for the trucks. As you can see, the morning coming off in the morning, the blue trucks in the Woods Hole. And then you can see it swings to the afternoon, the trucks coming back off island. And here's the weekends for the freight. And as expected, the numbers are both lower in quantity and that's it. So just lower. A little tongue tied, sorry about that. Cars parked for the month of April, we're up 12.2% or 1,170 cars. Year to date, we're up just over 4,000 vehicles and 19.5%. And that correlates close to what the passengers were seeing. Here's the cars parked by month. Trip summary report. So for the month of April on the Vineyard route, we had 4 trips canceled for mechanical, 0 for weather. On the Nantucket route, we had 0 trips canceled for mechanical and 4 for weather, bringing the year-to-date total for both routes combined, 54 trips canceled for mechanical, 102 for weather, and 124 for traffic. And you can see a new line added there as the request from Mr. Jones is what percentage of the trips traveled does each category of the canceled trips account for? So year-to-date, we have 0.8% trips canceled for mechanical, 1.52 for weather, and 1.85% for traffic. And comparing this to last year for both weather and mechanical combined, we're down about 43 trips in those 2 categories combined for both routes. Okay, so here we have the financial snapshot. Operating revenue for the month of April, we're at $9,813,000, which was lower than budget by $125,000. We had other income of $1,853,000, was higher than budget by $1.7 million, and that's timing of grant money when we received it as compared to what we expected during the budget, and that'll balance out throughout the course of the year. Operating expenses of $9,785,000 was lower than budget by $532,000, and we package this together. We have a net operating income of $1,722,000, which was higher than budget by $2,263,000. Year to date, we have a net operating loss of $8,387,000, which is lower than budget by about $6 million. And we'll go over a little more detail when we talk about the expenses on that number. Operating revenue, so for the month, as mentioned before, we're down $124,000, primarily led by the automobile revenue. And that's really the mix of the standard fares being down as well. And that's the driver in the automobile revenue. So year to date, looking at total revenue of up 525,000. And the other income, that's the grant revenue and the timing, as well as interest income. We're exceeding our original amount that we expected from interest income. As everyone knows, the rates are considerably higher than last year. Here's a breakdown by each category for the month of April and year to date of where our revenue comes from. And as we get more to the summer, you'll see more of the passenger revenue taking a bigger part of that pie. So operating expenses for the month were down 532,000. Fuel oil for the month was down 236,000, and year to date we're down 620,000. We're about 67 cents below budget estimates per gallon on the fuel. Maintenance expense for the year to date, we're down 1,275,000. And a lot of that's on the land side, and we'll see some of the procurement items coming up later today that will be capturing some of those under budget items. We'll be starting to realize those expenses, and some of that's a timing issue. Here's a breakdown of the operating expenses by month and for the year to date. Passengers carried for May, we're up 5.5% combined, just about 14,526 passengers. Year to date, both islands were up 7.3% compared to the previous year. And here's the vehicles for the month of May. We're up 2.2% on the Vineyard route. And again, the standard for automobiles are down. And on the Nantucket route, 4.9%. And the same thing is that the standard fares are down. And that's just the rebalancing from to historical levels. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Questions from the board? Mr. Malcolm?
Can you go back to the prior slide, please, Mark? Mark R.
So Sean will bring that up. So,
Okay.
okay.
Sean D.
Getting there, sorry. Sean D, yeah. No, that's not it. Sorry, hold on. Too many things coming up.
Here we go.
All right, and if you could blow that up again, or not. If I look at this, whoops,
All right, sorry, hang on. Let me start over again.
sorry, I didn't mean to tie us up with my question. Boom, 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 boom.
Too far.
Ah!
Can you ask your question while I'm getting this going?
Okay. As I think certainly management knows, and I suspect the board members know, one of the issues that we've been dealing with is the issue of empty spaces on our vessels for a number of reasons. I was fascinated to learn, and I don't know if others know this, on Monday, Juneteenth, 61 people didn't show up for reservations going this way, and 56 didn't show up for reservations going the other way. So suddenly we had empty vessels and people couldn't get reservations. I don't know how much no-shows we have, but clearly one of the things that we've been dealing with, and Mark Higgins and Allison Fletcher were very helpful in a meeting that we had with Bob and Mark as well, and Mr. Salido, myself, and Mr. Cahill on, I think it was Tuesday this week. In what do we do about this? And we're taking a number of steps to move this issue forward and try to resolve islanders who can't get reservations, and there are spaces available on boats. Having said all that by way of introduction, if I look at the 10% increase in 20-foot and over trucks, Mark, one of the things that we talked about was space allocation, where we have space breaks of like 15 feet. And if we figure 15 feet and two small trucks show up rather than two big trucks, suddenly we have extra space. Do you think that this 20-foot and over 10% increase on the Vineyard route ties to the allocation issue? Or is it simply tying to traffic? Or a little,
I think it's a little of both, but it's more towards the traffic number and then the cost of service where the growth last year was in the smaller trucks, not in the, it wasn't the semis, it was the box trucks, the delivery trucks. And I think it's a hard thing that, you know, we have in the operations is, we alluded to when we talked about the vessels, is the draft issues and making sure that all of a sudden, if you have two heavy trucks, who have to cancel a reservation unexpectedly, where the boat couldn't take vehicles and passengers, now it can. So that's one of the factors into that space availability and making sure that our inventory of what the boat can carry is reflective on the website and for the reservation clerks to make the reservations. Even though, as you mentioned, we had 60 no-shows, we ended up making 87 same-day reservations. So the system's working right. It's just a matter of making sure that we're balancing our inventory to what the boats are actually traveling with.
and that people know how to use our system. Yeah, thank you.
And if anyone has any suggestions on any information they'd like to see in this presentation in the future, any changes, let me know.
Cool.
Thank you. Next up is the cost of service, and we're not going to go all over all the hundreds of pages in it. I'll spare you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's too bad.
If you can't sleep, it's a good cure.
I was actually
We'll
looking
focus
forward
on-
to the whole thing. I mean, but that's okay.
I'm personally disappointed, but
So
Yeah,
we'll just
same,
go over
same.
So all this comes down to basically tab 5. It basically tells us how efficient how we're comparing to last year and how the boats are doing. And this is a good tool for when we prepare the budget. And I want to thank you to my staff for helping put this together. They do much of the legwork on this task, and it's not easy. So thank you. So if you can blow that up a little bit, Sean. Okay. So basically what we do is we take all the indirect and direct costs of the vessels, which is A and B, we put it into C. So that's how much it costs us to operate the vessel. So 2022 to compare to 2021, it was about $1.9 million more. And as everyone knows, the price of fuel last year, significantly increased. But that being said, we're looking at the total cost per trip only went up $47 on the Vineyard route, or 1.2%. What we then do is items G, H, and I, if you can scroll down a little bit, Sean. That basically shows you how we compared to last year for the size vehicles we carry. And as we can see on H, on the Vineyard route, the 2-space and 3-space, which are the smaller trucks, had the growth, were actually the larger trucks were down 160 trucks compared to the year before. Okay. So putting that together, what we do is that our freight deck capacity of what was able to book, which is letter M, if we scroll down a little bit further, we had capacity of 3,130 more spaces than the year before. But on letter K, just above it, we occupied 4,300 less spaces. But the capacity is really a derivative of what our repair schedule is and when where the Oak Bluffs opens and closes and when the schedule changes. Because we've been operating the same basic schedule for over 5 years now. So putting this together, our occupancy rate this year is down 0.8% compared to the year before, which was letter N, which Sean just passed it. Sorry. Bad.
It's not circled.
Yeah, it's 0.8%. So last year, 82.6%. This year in 2022, we're 81.8%. And that's, you got to remember, we also have deadhead trips that factor in that. For instance, the 9:30 p.m. trip off the Vineyard is not a very appealing trip for people. And then you have directional traffic at the holidays. So if we go to the next tab. Okay, so P through U is basically what we're doing there. Is we're taking what the cost per trip is and then backing out the passenger revenue. So then it comes out to how much does each trip cost to carry automobiles? If we can scroll down a little bit less, a little further. So then on section B, the average cost to carry a vehicle this year was $69.94. And that's year round compared to last year at $68.10. It's up 2.7% or $1.84. While the average revenue for a standard fare car was $93.41, and the average revenue for an excursion vehicle, when you strip out the passengers, was $23.14. So if we scroll down to just a little bit lower, So the standard fares cover 133.6% of the cost to carry them, while the excursion fares are at 33.1%. On the vineyard route, and then the trucks cover 106.4% the freight of what they are, of what their cost to carry. So that's the vineyard route. And going to the Nantucket route, they had a little more expenses associated with the dry docks, and fuel impacts them a little more because the longer run. Their cost per trip was up $406 at 5.5%. We actually carried less automobiles last year by about 2,800. You can scroll down a little bit less. Our trucks and number of spaces were up about 1,000. Our total spaces occupied were up 783, and our total capacity last year was up 4,210 car spaces. Just to slide a little bit lower, our occupancy rate was virtually flat from last year, from 2021 to 2022. We had occupancy rate of 86.4% compared to last year of 85.3. On the next page, once we back out the passenger revenue, and this is only for the big boats, we have a cost per trip for carrying the vehicles that went up $409. So here we can see the cost to carry a car was $168 in item V, where the standard fare automobile was $242 in revenue on average for the year, and the excursion fare was $60.80. The percentages are 143.8% cost of service for the standard fare and 36.1% for an average excursion automobile. So that big binder that everyone gets basically comes down to this page.
Yeah.
So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions regarding this. And this is an exercise we do annually. And Bob Davis put this together, the footprint of this. And we find it as a very useful tool to find out traffic patterns, occupancies, and for the budget, how we're doing. Yes.
Questions from the board?
Did we get our?
Nice work.
I have one for you here, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and so next up on the agenda is the 2022 audit review presented by RSM. Dan Burnett is here from RSM, who is the partner regarding our audit. And he's going to go over the audit presentation.
What do you need over at this point?
Okay, and I'd ask if we could bring Kelly Conrad and Courtney Oliveira. Kelly's our internal audit manager and Courtney's the assistant treasurer. And they are key players during the audit.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'd like to congratulate everybody in the room for surviving the heat exhaustion preparedness drill. In the room earlier this afternoon. So purpose today is to share with you observations as a result of the audit process and the matters that we're required to share with this committee that are required under the professional standards. So if we can page down to the executive summary. So the 2022 audit is complete. We did issue our opinion on those financial statements on May 10th of 2023. Our opinion on the financial statements, which was unmodified, which is to say that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. There were no significant changes to the audit strategy during the execution of the audit, which is to say that whatever we had anticipated as risks or exposures at the beginning of the audit, we didn't identify anything new or unexpected in the execution of the audit. In the current year, there was the adoption of a new accounting standard. We've talked about this one for a few years, the lease standard. So effectively, every lease arrangement with a life greater than 12 months had to be brought on the books as both an asset and an offsetting liability. So while the net result is effectively just a gross up of your balance sheet, the underlying work that went into identifying the population of leases, identifying the terms, conditions in each of those leases, and then applying the math to develop those numbers was a fairly comprehensive exercise. So it's a lot of work for, frankly, from a financial statement perspective, not much of a bang, if you will. There was one past audit adjustment. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a second. But also important to note that we did not identify any deficiencies, significant deficiencies, material weaknesses in internal controls as part of the audit process. Next slide. So I've already touched on some of these, but I'll touch on a couple of others. There are certain options that exist under GAAP in terms of how you can present things in your financial statements. One example is the presentation of your fixed assets in your financial statements. There's a number of others. We're here to share with you that in the authority's financial statements, there were no options available. So in cases where there are different treatments that can be applied, we're required to share with you what those options are, what option management chose, and what the other option might look like. So here to share with you that there were no such circumstances. No significant changes in the accounting policies except for the adoption of the lease. And there were no significant or unusual transactions in the current year. Next slide. So there are a number of estimates that are embedded within the financial statement. So not every number in those financial statements is a hard and fast number. Management does have the ability to influence some of the numbers that are presented in the financial statements by virtue of estimates that are embedded in the calculation. A couple of those examples relate to pension and OPEB, which have a whole series of underlying assumptions to how the actuaries calculate those liabilities. Next slide. There's also the estimated useful life of your capital assets, of your long-term assets. And in the calculation of the lease liability, there's certain assumptions that go into that calculation as well. So what we're required to do as the auditors is to take a look at what process management undertook to develop those estimates, determine whether or not it's reasonable in relation to the industry, consistent with what we would expect, and also more importantly, to ensure that it's consistent from year to year. So if we see management moving an estimate 1 year, which by definition is a range, right? So if we see management 1 year on the high end of the range and the next year they're on the low end of the range, that might be indication that they're trying to influence the number, the bottom line number, by manipulating the estimates that are in the financial statements. So we're here to tell you that there were no circumstances where the development of the estimates was unusual, out of industry norm or inconsistent with past history, nor in the development of that estimate do we see any fluctuations in the range. So, so that's a positive report as it relates to the estimates. Next slide. So there's a couple of paragraphs here and on the next slide where we have additional language in the financial statement opinion. The reason we have this language is because our opinion says the financial statements, which mean the balance sheet, the P&L, statement of cash flows, those are the financial statements and the related notes, are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. In management's financial statement, there's a lot of other information. So these paragraphs just go on to tell you that, hey, this other information is in there. We've looked at it in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole, and we had no issues or concerns. So this is a whole series of supplemental schedules required by the GASB. And the next slide speaks to the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Next slide. Oh, there's a third, sorry. So when we do an audit, we start with a trial balance that's provided by management, which is the basis for the calculation of the financial statements or the presentation of the financial statements, and also is the basis for our audit. We are required to share with this committee any circumstances where either we identified something that had to be posted because it was significant or material, or if we identify anything as part of the audit process that didn't get recorded, but does represent an adjustment that came out of the audit process or a matter identified as part of the audit process. So there were no adjustments that were made to the original trial balance that we used during the audit process. And there was one past adjustment, which if we could turn to the next slide, I'll walk you through. So management, when they record their contributions into the pension, basically record all the payments when the cash is paid. Now, under GAAP, you're supposed to record those in the period in which they're incurred, not the period in which they're paid. But it's the practice that management has always followed. So effectively, you end up with 12 months in your financial statement. That there's a 1 month lag on a front end and a 1 month lag on a back end. So we net the two to see whether or not the difference is significant, and it typically is nominal. This year, however, the original payment that was done in January, which represented the payment in December, was actually 2 months instead of 1. So it was a little different than past history. So this is effectively the equivalent of 1 month's contributions that was not appropriately accounted for in the proper accounting period. At the end of the day, the amount is not material to the financial statements, either quantitatively or qualitatively, which is to say nobody's going to come to a different conclusion about the overall health of the authority based on which period this amount would have been recorded in. So we agreed with management, and management has passed on recording that in the current year. Next slide. We had no significant issues that we discussed with management, nothing that was controversial, no disagreements with management. We received full cooperation throughout the entire audit, access to every individual, every record, everything that we needed to see as part of the audit process. We're also not aware of any circumstances where management asked us a question, we gave them an answer, they didn't like the answer, so they tried to get a different answer from somebody else. That would be a form of opinion shopping that we would be required to share with you. No such circumstances. Next slide. So we are the independent auditors, which means there is a set of standards that we are required to follow to ensure both as individuals and as an organization, we are independent from the authority. So we have to ensure that there are no partners or individuals in the Boston office who hold bonds, Steamship Authority bonds. We can't hold investment in the organization. We can't have related parties that are in key financial positions in the organization. So if we had somebody who worked at RSM whose wife worked here as the assistant controller or something, that would be somebody in a key financial role that has a financial personal relationship with an employee of RSM. That would create problems for us. No such circumstances. And then the third area where we have to be independent is to ensure that if we are providing services other than audit, that those services ultimately don't become the subject matter of our audit. So we have, for a period of, it was probably 2 or it probably extended 3 years, where we had consultants that were serving in a project management role, overseeing the implementation of the new system, the new IT system. So our team did not install, they did not implement, they oversaw the administration of that implementation. So that's an allowable service under all professional standards. So I don't believe that it actually carried into FY22. It ended just before, right? Yeah. Next slide. So the in the appendix here is just a copy of the representation letter. So there are certain things that are inherent in the audit process. Management is responsible to prepare the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. They're responsible to develop and implement effective internal controls. They're required to tell us everything we need to know about potential legal issues or other contingencies, and really make us aware of everything we need to know in order to do our job. So at the end of the audit, we will ask management to provide us a letter under their signature and letterhead that identifies all of their responsibilities in the audit process. So a copy of that is provided for your consideration. And the only thing I will add to the presentation here is, in addition to the audit of the financial statements, we do also perform an audit of the federal grant programs. You are required to follow a different set of standards as it relates to the expenditure of those dollars. We are required to audit those at a level that's far lower than the financial statement materiality. So we did test both programs this year, both federal programs this year. We did not identify any findings of non-compliance. We identified no matters of internal control deficiency as it relates to the audit of those federal programs. So with that, I will turn it back to the committee for any questions, thoughts, comments you might have.
Questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Your team has done an awesome job.
Very much.
And Rob, I'd like to thank Kelly and Courtney who are on the call. They did a really great job this year with the audit, so thank you.
Thank you, Kelly and Courtney.
And also Dan and his team, I mean, to be bringing in people and going through and working with our people, I think it was a good, from my understanding, it was a good working relationship once again, so.
Okay, it looks like we're got some procurement coming our way.
All righty. So first, we have a request for the board to authorize the general manager to execute purchases of vessel automation parts and services for the MV Aquina under PO 26142 and for the MV Barnstable under PO 26143 from Trident Marine Systems of Alexandria, Virginia, for a total contract price of $855.66. These parts will upgrade the original automation equipment that are on board those vessels to be compliant with U.S. Coast Guard regulations. It includes a number of deliverables in that it's identified within the staff summary. Back at the April 2023 board meeting, these items were identified as owner furnished materials as from the subcontractors, and they were approved as items 16H. At that time, the estimate that we had was $150,000 per vessel for a total of $300,000. The difference in cost of $36,855.66 is due to an increase in the supply chain materials from the original tender. So the original tender, when we had presented the proposal back in April, actually dated back to the end of 2022. And so when we asked them to go ahead and place the order, they came back that there was a price increase on that. So we're looking for authorization to authorize the general manager to execute the purchase of vessel automation parts and services for the MV Aquina under PO 26142 and MV Barnstable under PO 26143 from Trident Marine Systems of Alexandria, Virginia, for a total contract price of $336,855.66.
Is there a motion on this?
Good, I'd make a motion, but I'd like to know exactly what automation we're talking about. Huh?
Yeah. I'll bring Mr. Edmondson back over.
Yeah, good afternoon again. This automation is for the monitoring systems of the vessel, and they compute. This has to do with the engine monitoring, the thruster monitoring, the auxiliary power monitoring. It's what the engineers count on when they're in and out of the spaces, and also bridge oversight of it. So this consists of multiple CPU units upgrades, computer processing units, and this is to bring. Right now, the equipment we have on is no longer supported and had to be upgraded, and this is to bring it back into. Coast Guard gives a periodic unattended operation on the certificate of inspection, and this equipment supports that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
So
Mr.
moved.
Jones, okay. And a second by Mr. Malkin, okay. All in favor by roll call.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Malkin, aye.
Randy, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request for the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 02-2023 Phoenix Haven Terminal siding replacement to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, FRG Contractor Corp. of Woburn, Mass. For a total contract price of $116,500. Looking at the condition of the terminal, both from, staff and also some observations from the public as well. We conducted a transit asset management review of all of our facilities, and as part of that review, in accordance with FTA requirements, we had identified that we needed to do some work on the exterior of that building. So we sent the bid specifications out. 9 vendors took out the package. We received 2 responsive bids, which are included in your in the diligence. On a related note, we're also looking at replacing the gutters at that facility. The roof gutters and drawings were sent to 12 vendors. We received 3 bids. The low bidder, which is also FRG contractor of Woburn, was for $63,686. Since it's under $100,000, it doesn't require board approval, but I wanted to bring that to the board's attention as well. So we're seeking authorization to award contract 02-2023 Vineyard Haven Terminal siding replacement, the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, FRG Contractor Corp of Woburn, Mass. For a total contract price of $116,500.
Mr. Jones,
I would move it, seems to be quite a spread in those two numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, 116,000 versus 205,000.
Mr. Jeffrey,
Muted, Peter.
Oh, I said, I'll second Mr. Jones' motion.
okay, all in favor by roll call.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye. That's approved.
Okay, thank you. Now, request the members to authorize general manager to award contract number 03-2023. Hyannis Terminal siding replacement to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, FRG Contractor of Woburn, Mass. For a total contract price of $122,400. Again, went through the same procedures and reviewed the condition of the terminal. We previously had replaced the roof and the gutters on this facility. So we sent this out. 11 vendors took out the bid package. We got 2 bids, and we're seeking authorization for the general manager to award contract 03-2023 Hyannis Terminal siding replacement, the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, FRG Contractor Corp of Woburn, Mass. For a total contract price of $122,400.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor by roll call.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye. That's approved.
Yeah, sure.
So I got a
The next on the procurement list is authorization to award contract number 06R-2023 Vineyard Haven Terminal HVAC replacement. Purpose to request the members authorize the general manager to award contract number 06-2023 Vineyard Haven HVAC replacement project to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, Harding and Smith of Walpole, Mass. For a total contract price of $1,178,000. The background observations from both the public and members of the Steamship Authority have brought awareness to the current conditions of the Vineyard Haven HVA system. The observations were confirmed during the Transit Asset Management TAM review conducted in accordance with Federal Transit Agency FTA requirements. The issues include the conditions of the HVA system at the Vineyard Haven Terminal. The current HVA system that serves the Vineyard Haven Terminal building is failing and is in need of a full replacement due to leak damages to ceiling spaces and various other mechanical failures throughout the system. With regards to the Vineyard Haven Terminal HVAC replacement projects, drawings and specifications were sent to 17 DCAMM contractors. One responsive bid was received.
Wow.
See attached bid summary and vendor summary. The project's house doctor architects estimated $300,000 for this project. This contract is a rebid from an earlier effort. The recommendation is to authorize the general manager to award contract number 06-2023 Vineyard Haven HVAC replacement project to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, Hardy and Smith of Walpole, Mass, for a total contract price of $1,178,000.
So if I may, add a little bit more to this. So as part of any project that we have to do at one of our facilities, we're required under the Design and Selection Board regulations that we have a list of what they're called house doctors that we use to do the design, engineering, and then also to provide a cost estimate for these projects. So this is the architect that did this is one of the 4 vendors that we can use under the Design and Selection Board criteria. And when they did this, they came back with a $300,000 estimate, and we were surprised to see not only this, but the original bid and then this bid where it's over $1.1 million. But at this point, we've looked at the project, and we don't have the personnel and staff nor the expertise in staff to be undertaking this ourselves. So we feel it's best to, we need to bring that facility up to a status where the employees and the customers that use that facility are in a healthy environment.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Jones has his hands up.
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really understand the spread of that one. You know, from 300,000 with their estimates and up to $1 million, do we have anything else that's even close to, for a comp?
No, we put this out to bid. This is the second bid, and we've only gotten this one company to bid both times. And from contacting some of the other vendors that have had taken out the bid package, their response has been that they're just so busy that they don't have the time to do this project. So I think some of it is that the industry itself is just so busy that they throw a number out there, and if they get it, they get it. If not, they move on. So unfortunately, we're in a position where we've gone out to bid on this 2 times now. We've only gotten the 1 bid each time.
Does anyone want to stick their neck out and make a motion? Mr. Malcolm?
I will reluctantly make the motion because yes, it's failing, and I should just share with the other board members that in the town of Chilmark, we spent 4 years doing an HVAC system for the Chilmark School, and the prices have gone from $100,000 to now $1.2 million over that past 4 years. Same kind of situation. No bidders or 1 bidder. It's not pleasant. So I will make the motion because there's no alternative.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Second,
Okay, all in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
But I didn't purposely give you that one. Just
There you go, Mark. I've got a tickle in my throat.
Okay, so next, request that the members authorize the general manager to award contract number 12-2023 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Sanctity, the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which was Thames Shipyard and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $754,193. The vessel is scheduled for shipyard on October 18th, 2023 through December 4th of this year. To undergo hull exam, rudder, propeller, shaft maintenance, bow thruster maintenance, and coating maintenance. The budget estimate that we had for this project was $873,928. The discrepancy between that and what the budgeted amount and the bid amount was, there was a 10% dry dock contingency that we had included in the original in the budget. So the number that we had in the budget also included that, you know, that we might get a little higher bids than we did. So we sent it out to 14 shipyards. We had 2 shipyards submitted proposals, and we're seeking authorization for the general manager to award contract number 12-2023 dry docking and overhaul services for the MV Sankaty to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which is Fainton Shipyard and Repair Company in New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $754,193.
Comments from the board, motions,
I'll move.
Second,
motions made and seconded, all in favor by roll call.
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye. That's approved.
All right. And next, seeking authorization to execute change order number 9 to contract number 02-2021. Redesign of the Steamship Authority's website and development of a mobile application with ADK Group LLC in the amount of $288,000. As you're well aware, this contract was awarded back in the fall of 2021. We've been working with ADK, or what's the current name?
Stellar Elements.
Stellar Elements, sorry. On this project. And as Sean pointed out earlier in his presentation, that there's a number of elements on this project that still need to be resolved. And to be rolling this out at this time of year, we don't feel is the best. You know, you only one chance to make a first impression, so we're looking to continue the development of the website over the summer with a fall release date on it. As part of this, and Ben Kaplan is here in the room, so he may want to speak regarding some of this as well. They've gone back and they've looked at the resources that they've provided, they're providing to support us through the summer in the project. And let's see, Ben's coming up, so when I have him speak. And
So, Mr. Davis, for the opportunity to speak to this. As everyone on the call knows, we place an extraordinary amount of value in our partnership with the Steamship Authority. Our 2 technology teams have been working incredibly close together. They've essentially embedded as a single team, shared project management resources, shared technical problem solving, daily phone calls. As part of the demonstration of our partnership, we have felt it important to provide, as we've sort of worked through these challenges together, substantial discounts on our rates, resources that you know that we're able to bill internally. This change order represents one of our most substantial discounts to date. The burn rate of $96,000 per month was based on a projection that we worked on with the Steamship Authority about 9 months ago. It's you know, we made a decision several months ago that in order to make this project successful, we needed substantially more resources than that $96,000 per month budget allowed. So that difference has been represented in some previous discounts, and it's certainly represented here. And so I think the staff summary has the detailed breakdown. I guess the last thing I'll say is this. We are within striking distance of launch. As Sean indicated earlier in this meeting, we are working through final refinements. We're deep into testing with Mr. Rosen's team. We are very, very close. We feel extremely confident about a September launch, and we feel that this is what will get us over the line.
So with that, we're asking that the members authorize the general manager to execute change order number 9 to contract 02-2021 redesign of the Steamship Authority's website and development of a mobile application with ABK Group LLC in the amount of $288,000. As outlined in the staff summary.
Questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, I have to confess to being concerned at cost creep on this project, particularly in relation to the fact that this is the mobile app that gets fed from our reservation system, which we haven't even begun to get stuck into, really. And this project is dragging out and costing considerably more money every time we turn around. So I'm concerned about cost creep on this.
Mr. Jeffrey?
I guess I'll go from not only concerned, I'm a little outraged at this point. This is the third delay. Was supposed to be a 1-year contract. We're now going to probably have it go into a full 2 years. And I remember asking in December of 2022 on our first change order, if we thought any further change orders or delays would be necessary for the March 2023 launch. And I was assured at the time by the project manager that no, that wouldn't be necessary. And then when the second change order came to us in February, it was no, we'll do it by May, and pretty adamant from management that we shouldn't delay the launch until we had our tech audit done, that it wouldn't be necessary. Now we're running into a third change order after a third name change of the company we're working with that's going to run somewhat parallel with the launch when we should have our tech audit done. So I don't have any real confidence in any of the information I'm being given by the project manager from the Steamship Authority as to what the actual issues are and remain to be. I mean, we've been told that there's only one more thing to do, content manager, the credit card processor, and then that doesn't get fixed in the 90-day cycle that is pointed out to us, or there's some new problem. So I think that the creep has happened, and I don't see an end to this. I correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, when will this launch? And at this point, I think we've already made the wrong impression to the traveling public.
So, well, Mr. Jones.
Ron, can you
Mr.
say?
Jones, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I don't disagree with a thing you said, Peter. But I look at, sometimes we get caught in the middle. And it looks like the end is in sight, no matter, how accurate that is. And I think we've got to, just bite the bullet and go forward with it. And I hate to do that, but it seems like all of these projects, I wasn't comfortable at all in a discussion about, you know, the end prices of our ship builders and things and their reasonings behind, you know, the increase in dollars and stuff. And I kind of balance that a little bit by what John Waterhouse said to us, you know, of how prices are changing, and he's just embarrassed to even talk to his customers because they change them so quickly and radically. And it seems like when we're paying $1 million for what was estimated at $300,000. I mean, we're in the middle. We're in the middle, and I can't see we spent all this money thus far. And for myself, I think we've got to push it over the edge. And we did this with numerous projects. They kept coming out with, you know, add-ons and add-ons and add-ons. And, you know, you're caught in the middle, and we're caught in the middle again. So at least for myself, I'm just gonna, you know, just say, let's go forward and get this done. And hopefully it's gonna be what we want.
Bob, can I? Okay. I just want to say, as a project manager, I hear and agree with everything that's been said. And this is not, you know, this is taking longer than anybody anticipated, both ourselves and Stellar Elements. And the reasons for that are well documented at this point. And in 2020 hindsight, you know, we would have brought more internal resources on when we were able to. There are definitely lessons learned from this. The next time, I never project manage a website project again, but you know, 10 years ago, and I wasn't here for this, so Bob can speak to it, but we had a similar experience when we launched the current site with iMark, and I think some of it is due to sort of the iterative nature of website design, that it's not, you know, you test, you find things, you have to go back and redesign, retest, and the path forward is not always the straight one. But you know, the name changes are not affecting the quality of the work as I see it. Everybody, our team, their team is working extraordinarily hard. But this process has been longer than we anticipated, to be frank.
Yeah, I would just say that I was around during that previous version, and it was, things were a little less complicated then, but the transition was very complicated. Now we're in a world where things are more complicated, and we're trying to get it right, I think. And it seems like we're going in the right direction. It's just taking longer, and I think it's better to get it right. And I think that's what we're doing. It's because the last time we had a new website and the old website working at the same time, because there was no trust in the new website yet because of all the bugs and things that were going on. So some people continued to use the old website for a period of time while, you know, the new website sort of worked out the kinks. And I think, you know, if we can avoid anything like that, fantastic. And I think we're going in the right direction. It's just, it's expensive, it's complicated, and it's taking more time. But I think it sounds like the due diligence and the testing and the fixing of the bugs is all, you know, part of this equation. But it's, you know, I'm going to vote for this, but it's complicated and I get it. Mr. Malcolm. You're muted, Jim.
Thank you for sharing that, Rob. Sean, what happens if we vote no?
What happens if we vote no is that we would transition to the 60-day post-launch period funding, which is about half of the funding that we have now. Then we would transition to the post-launch support statement of work, which is even lower than that. So at those resource levels, 80 or Stellar Elements would be forced to pull back more resources because of those reductions in funding, and we would miss a fall launch date. There's too much work to be done to make a fall launch under those resourcing models.
Right, so if we miss the
The project will continue, but we will not launch until 2024.
All right, so we delay the launch, but we get the same product?
Eventually.
Yeah, but if I believe we'd end up financially perhaps in the same space because it'd be post-launch support. But it would delay the project, potentially a couple months, and we get to the point where we won't want to roll it out before we open up the summer reservations, so.
Yeah.
It's 6 of one and a half dozen the other.
Just if I can continue just with this, Mr. Chairman. We recently came off what I consider to be a significant failure in terms of estimating the cost of some new vessels, the conversion costs. Now we're looking at what I also consider to be a management failure on a project like this. And with all the best intentions of the world of the people involved. But I've been involved in technology issues before, and it is a management issue to control costs and timelines and the product. And that's why I'm making these points to the organization, that it concerns me that this is a fall down. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hear it.
I would say two things to address your point, Mr. Malkin. And the first thing I'll say is I completely hear where you're coming from, and I recognize the frustration. I don't think that anybody could have predicted the speed or the complexity that it would have taken us on both our team and the Steamship Authority's team to develop the APIs that are powering the reservation component of this application. This is a very complex application that is interfacing with an even more complex backend that's then overlaid over a very complex and nuanced business. I don't say that to discount your concerns at all.
Well, the original cost of this was less than 2 million, right? And now we're over 3?
No, the original contract cost was 1,996,000. Prior to this change order, we're at 2.5 million, so this would bring us to about 2.8 million. We're not over 3.
Okay.
And I would emphasize that, if I'm correct, Sean, that does not account for the investment that we've made on.
It does not, no.
On our side.
That's our investment.
Okay. I think I made my points.
Believe me, this is not something that we quickly turned around and wanted to, we've been working with Stellar Elements and, along with our team, and, Dave Jensen's been assisting us in terms of looking at this. I think, obviously the scope of this, now whether it was not fully documented early on to identify, pinch points that we needed to do. I don't think when we originally, I know we did not, at the time we originally put this out, that we had not planned on switching our credit card processors, which had a big impact on the timeline on this. And referred to APIs, and a big piece of that was the, being able to handle all the credit card data and things like that, so. Believe me, it's an uncomfortable position that I know we're putting the board in to try to get this over the finish line here, but I think the alternative is that, it'd be a longer development process to get this done, potentially impacting, the opening come for 2024 season.
Is there a motion from the board?
Mr. Jones has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, I can't see you, but go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request.
Is there a second?
I reluctantly second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, no.
Jones, aye.
Melton, aye.
Randy, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, old and new business.
I think the only thing in there is, you should have the information from Janice regarding, not a good time to be bringing this up, the performance evaluation of the general manager. So I know there was a question from the Port Council at their meeting as to when this would be done. I'm good with deferring this until at least the August meeting. If that's okay with the board.
So question, if we defer this to the August meeting, what are our timeline obligations as far as getting it done and all that?
You'd still, your evaluation of my performance would still be done. It's just that instead of turning it around for the July meeting, be looking to do it for the August meeting.
Okay.
And I had emailed a memo on June 5th to all of the Port Council and Board's Steamship Authority email. So if you prefer it, go to your personal email, just let me know and I'll get that up too if you haven't seen it in your steamship.
Yes, please send it to my personal email.
Okay.
It needs to go, it has to go to the steamship email.
Yeah, it has to do with Steamship Authority business. It needs to go to your Steamship Authority email.
Right.
Okay, well, it's in your Steamship Authority email.
Good job, Janice.
You can blame the lawyers, Jim.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any questions about this from the board as far as process or anything like that? Mr. Jeffrey?
Just a question as to, Bob, when can we expect to get your draft statement as to meeting your goals and objectives?
I'll endeavor to get it out in the next 7 to 10 days.
Okay, I don't have anything that was not reasonably anticipated. Is there public comment?
Yeah, Mary Longacre has her hand up.
Mary Longacre, my old friend, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thank you. Long time no see. I wanted to bring to the board's attention, I've heard through the grapevine from Bill Ewan that the warehouse where the NOBSCA's remaining parts are stored is in need of repairs and that those parts will need to be removed from the warehouse for those repairs to take place. Warren Hartwell, the owner of W.R. Hartwell, which was providing the storage, passed away a short time ago. And I've been in touch with Paul Bartley at W.R. Hartwell. He has not been able to provide any details yet. We haven't connected fully, but I would be happy to pass along details when I have them or to give you his contact information if that's important to you. I just wanted to make sure that organizations that had an interest in the NOBSCA were aware that those parts, which have been in safe storage for many years, are going to need some help. As far as I know, that consists of the engine, the steam engine from the NOBSCA, 2 of the lifeboats, which I believe are aluminum lifeboats, the section of the keel that was saved, and probably some miscellaneous other items as well. So trying to spread the word about that and hopefully be able to connect people who are in a position to assist with the continued preservation of those. And unfortunately, again, I don't have any details as to a deadline for their movement or as to the expectations or goals for what might happen to them. But again, I'm happy to pass that along when I find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
That's all I see, Mr. Rennie.
Okay, hearing no more, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and if no one has anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
John's eye.
Knock and I. Thank you, everyone.
Randy, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great 4th, everyone.
Yep, have a great 4th.